Hello and welcome to Monkmatics, the channel that is here to educate you and help remove bias from your UFC betting picks and DraftKings lineups. I'm your host, Monkmaster Flex, aka Thelonious Monk, aka just regular old monk. And let's dive right into it, man. This weekend we do, as you can see in the background, Saturday night we have a fight night, UFC Fight Night 31, Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises. Co-main event. Is the return of Misha Tate versus Marion Renault. So that could be interesting. Let's go ahead and get started here. We'll take a look at last week. Quick recap of UFC 264, Poirier versus McGregor. Let's check it out here. Most of my projections were actually pretty close. I went 8-4. Had a really good run at the beginning of the card. Only one I dropped was the Omari Akhmedov pick. Brad Tavares did edge him out there. And I rattled off a bunch in a row, but once we got to that main card, I got destroyed. I only went 2 for 5 with my picks on the main card there. Obviously, Sean O'Malley, wow, what a fight. Guy landed like 230 significant strikes or something. He hit Chris Moutinho so much that he had to go get x-rays on both his hands, his leg, and a couple other things too. I don't even remember. He has possible breaks there. But let's not forget Chris Moutinho. My goodness. He got dominated. Let's not get it twisted. But man, that guy's tough. Hope that should, in his next fight, I'd be very interested to see how he does. I'm sure no one's going to throw 230 strikes. I think O'Malley landed like 15 strikes a minute, significant strikes a minute or something like that over almost 15 full minutes. The numbers are crazy. His striking numbers are crazy in that fight. We should actually take a look at that. Anyways, to a lot of people's I don't know, the opposite of dismay. Sorry, I can't think of the word. Tai Tuivasa knocks out Greg Hardy in the first round. Hardy hit him with at least one shot that wobbled his legs, but Tuivasa recovered pretty much immediately and hit him, I think, with a left hook that just dropped him. And Hardy, it was very strange. Hardy hit the ground and recoiled like he'd never been hit in his face before. It was not a good reaction to getting hit by Tai Tuivasa. Either way, first round knockout. And then Gilbert Burns, Stephen Thompson. A lot of people disappointed in that fight. I don't know what Gilbert Burns was supposed to do other than exactly what he did to get that win there. So not a high scoring event, but still a very competitive match. But Gilbert Burns did kind of make Stephen Thompson look his age there. Won all 3 rounds, I believe. And then the main event, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. I'm not really going to talk about any of the before, during, or after drama that happened, other than to say I find it tasteless and even worse than that, deplorable for the most part. But let's not focus on that. Dustin Poirier wins first round TKO, doctor stoppage, whatever you want to call it. It's a TKO. If you cannot come out of your corner due to an injury or for any reason, that's a TKO. It's a technical knockout. So Dustin Poirier wins that. Conor breaks his tibia. There's a lot of speculation on whether it was hurt pre-fight. His ankle. Kavanaugh's saying he had an ankle injury. I don't know. There's a lot of backpedaling going on in that camp right now. No pun intended. So yeah, I found it a pretty entertaining card. Dricus Duplessis, as I totally butchered his name last week, really came out and showing what he does against Trevin Giles. That was great. Ilia Topuria, that was another good one. I was so happy to see him smash Ryan Hall like that on the ground. I don't dislike Ryan Hall. Like, I have nothing against any of these guys personally or anything, but his style I just do not enjoy. I mean, what are you doing rolling around on the ground like that for 10 minutes pretty much? Or I guess not 10 minutes. He got a first round TKO, so almost 5 minutes. It was towards the end of the round. So good. I was happy to see that he extends his record to 11-0. Be very interested to see who he fights next. Pereiro Price was a good one. Griffin Condit was a good one. And yeah, that's about all we got to say there. Zalgas Zamagulov with the early um, first round submission there. So here's our optimal lineup for the last week. So much value. Look at all that value there. Nobody below $8,200 won a fight over the weekend, except for the main event, obviously. But so that puts Jessica I losing a fight against Jennifer Maya. She makes the optimal lineup with 52 DraftKings points. But look at this Sean O'Malley score. 9,500, so most expensive fighter on the card. 147 points, 15.5 value. That is ridiculous. So congratulations to the people that had that lineup. I had no part of Jessica I. I think I had like 4%, even if that. I didn't have much of that fight at all. So there we go. Now, let's move on to what really matters, the future, making our picks for this card, and making some money this week. Let's go. Let's go. So our first fight of the night, Rodrigo Nascimento versus Alan Baudot. Let's see here. Rodrigo, 8-1 professionally. He's got 2 knockouts, 6 submissions on his record. He's 1-1 in the UFC. 6'2" with an 80-inch reach. Go across the way here. Alan Baudot, 6'3", so he's a little bit taller. 79-inch reach, a bit less. And he is about 4.5, almost 5 years older than Rodrigo. He is 8-2 professionally. Let's see here. He has 7 wins by knockout. Sorry, I'm checking my notes. 7 wins by knockout. He has lost by knockout twice. So this guy puts people down, and when he loses, he gets put down. So let's move on to some of the stats here. Not much to look at. That's going to be a running theme for this card. We don't have a lot of UFC fight history. Like I said before, I only track UFC stats. I don't track any other promotions. I don't even track the Dana White Contender Series. I know it is a professional fight, but it is not a UFC fight. That is its own promotion. So the numbers you see here are strictly UFC numbers. The only other numbers I'll bring into this, as you'll see, is strength of schedule and the finish numbers I just mentioned. So our AWI, or ass whoop index, that's how much the fighter, did you get your ass whooped? Do you whoop some ass? That's what that number is. So it's not good for Rodrigo, -7.29, but as you can see for Allen, his one fight in the UFC, -97, almost -98. He got knocked out, I believe, first round by Tom Aspinall, so that's why that number is so low. And knocked out, I don't know, he did not get dropped technically, but he did get finished. Rodrigo, obviously jiu-jitsu guy, going to be much more active on the ground here, as you can see from his takedown shooting rate, his sub-attempt rate, and his control time activity rate, all pretty good, and all lower or non-existent for Allen. Vegas says this is going to be Rodrigo finishing the fight inside the distance. Average line, -342 for Rodrigo, +266 for Allen. Excuse me. All right, some DraftKings numbers here. Rodrigo is the more expensive fighter, 9,000 to 7,200. He scores pretty well when he wins. He scores very poorly when he loses. But like I said, we don't have a ton of data here. Here are some projections for the fight. Some pretty high projections here. It is most likely going to be a finish, and that's why the numbers are so high. Some top performances there. Like I said, it's the only 2 fights for Rodrigo in the UFC is what you're seeing here. He subbed Dontel Mays round 2, and he got knocked out by Chris Daukaus. And then the Alan Baudot TKO lost to Tom Aspinall. A few more DraftKings numbers here, and then we'll get into the real stats for you betting guys. Rodrigo scores pretty well, 3.84 raw DraftKings points per minute, good for 9th in the division. Scores just under 100 DraftKings points in his win. Let's see. He does get outscored though, DraftKings points wise, almost by a little more than 1.5 points. Meanwhile, Alan Baudot in his 1.5 minutes in the octagon has only put up 1 DraftKings points per minute. Big differential there. I have a new stat here. Percentage of fighter wins that go over 90 DraftKings points, 100 DraftKings points, and 110 DraftKings points. My idea with that is just trying to give an idea of the chances of making the optimal lineup, or because most of the time, if you're scoring over 100, definitely over 110, you are most likely making the optimal lineup. It would have to be it'd have to be a bunch of finishes for you not to. So, looking at that, Rodrigo has had one of his fights over 90 DraftKings points, none over 100, and none over 110. And Alan Badeau has no wins. So let's see, we're getting into the percentage of DraftKings points and how they were scored. Rodrigo, as you can see, or as you can expect rather, almost half his points coming from grappling. And then 100% of Alan Badeau's 1.6 points have been striking. He can be grappled at, let's see, half the points scored against him were grappling points. So that does speak well for Rodrigo. Going forward, let's see, fight finishing data. Nascimento has one finish win submission and one TKO loss. I'm pretty sure he got submitted. So I'd like to have a look at that. I might have entered something wrong here. Nope, I'm thinking of something. I must be thinking of someone else. I am thinking of someone else. I'm thinking of Rodolfo Vieira getting submitted by Fluffy Hernandez. We'll get to that. So anyways, fight finishing data. Both of them have been knocked out or finished once, TKO'd, and Rodrigo has a submission, as we mentioned. Here's a graphical representation of those stats. Not much to look at because we don't have much to speak of. Fight history, last 5 fights. This whole area, we're going to be skipping at most of the card because it only shows up if you have more than 5 fights in the octagon. Otherwise, the graphs are empty here because it's comparing the last 5 fights to your career. And these stats up here, we can just scroll down because they're going to be the same as their career stats. So let's go to strength of schedule here. This one I figured just like college football figures their strength of schedule rather. I think I said strength of stats. Strength of schedule. So I have their last 5. All this is just the last 5 opponents. I'm not tracking, like when Jeremy Stevens comes up, I'm not tracking his last 38 opponents or 50 opponents or however, and then their fight. I'd still be doing that. So this is the last 5 opponents and their records. So 34 and 18. He's got a 65% winning percentage. Strength of schedule. That calculation is basically the fighter's last 5 opponents. Those five opponents, their last 5 opponents, all those records added up and calculated. So that gives me my strength of schedule here. 64.79, that's pretty much average, maybe a little bit below. Strength of victory, how have you done against guys that you've beaten? How are their records? Are they cans? Have you beaten nothing but cans? Or have you beaten strong guys, strong contenders? So that's not a great number there at 60.53. But it is still better than Alan Badeau. And then strength of defeat, same thing as strength of victory, but the opposite. Who have you lost to? Are they tough guys? Have you lost to cans? Because that doesn't speak well. So let's kind of compare these. 57% here, so Alan Badeau's numbers are worse. His strength of victory is bad. 0.4146. That's pretty low. That means he's beaten guys that he should beat and that are pretty bad. They have losing records cumulatively. And then strength of defeat, on the other hand, the guys he's lost to have been pretty good, like Tom Aspinall, up-and-coming heavyweight with a lot of power there and a lot of skill. Looks eerily similar to Frank Mir also, but that's just an opinion. So then we got the last 5 fights. You can take a look at that if you'd like. Rodrigo got his ass whooped by Chris Daukaus, minus 303 ass whoop index, because that was a first-round knockout, finished very quickly. We move down Dontel Mays. He subbed. He has a 24.08 AWI, which is also a very good number. It's no 300, but those high numbers, those high AWI numbers come from early first round knockouts. That's where you get that number. So 24.08, very good number there for a finish. And then as we look, Tom Aspinall over here. And that's all the fight history we have for the UFC. These, I got a graphical representation of basically a few of the stats we just looked at over the past 5 fights. I've got a few lines on here, so I'll kind of go through this real quick one time to help you decipher my madness. Our blue line here, solid blue, is significant strikes landed per minute for our fighter. Orange line is their opponent in their last 5 fights. The dashes, the blue and orange dash lines, are trend lines. Um, so that's basically just saying how the fighters have been. Are they trending up? Are their stats moving in the right direction over time compared to their opponents? Are their stats getting better or worse against them over time? So that's kind of a cool little line there I like to look at. And then the solid green and solid yellow lines there are the fighter averages and the opponent averages for that specific stat. So that kind of gives you an idea of how the fighter has been performing in these categories over the past 5 fights. Um, so I kind of like to look at that here. You can see Rodrigo trending in the right direction, his line, but he's given up lots of significant strikes landed against per minute, and that's because he got knocked out by Chris Daukaus in such a short amount of time there. His takedown landed per 15, look at that, 3.83 compared to nothing for his opponents. But that was basically just the Dontel Mays fight. Looks like he landed almost 4.25 takedowns per 15 minutes. And then his control time is also better than his opponents, although his opponents are trending up in that category. And then raw DraftKings points. That's the term I came up with. That is your DraftKings points per minute, but no bonus points included. I just want to know your output scoring wise, no matter how you finish or if you finish. So I find that to be very useful. Now, look, comparing the two, obviously Rodrigo's not the best in a couple categories, but he is looking a lot better than Alan Badeau, who just got dominated in his one fight. So that's why these numbers are so disparaging. All right, guys, let's get into some of the betting numbers. I'm just going through this first one kind of slow so I can explain all the areas to you. For my first couple videos, I'll probably do that for all the new viewers that are going to come along, hopefully. And but going forward after this one, I'll kind of just breeze through. As you can see, I have a couple of stats bolded here, and that's just to help me and to help you. Those are the ones I personally consider the most important out of my category. So if you break this down, striking data goes from here to line 199, and there's a few different stats in here, 20 or so stats, maybe more, and each one has a ranking next to them that tells you where they sit in their division. And the bolded ones I just did so we can see them easier, and that's the ones I consider the most important in the category. So let's go through it. Striking data. The stuff on the left, and this is going to be a theme here in my spreadsheet. The stuff on the left here is basically how a volume stat, how much you've thrown in your career. So I'm not really too concerned with that. All that tells me is how long you've been around, basically, and I can tell that by the number of fights you've had. What I'm more concerned with are the bolded statistics here. Significant striking accuracy for Rodrigo, almost 59%, fourth in the division, so very good. His defense, 42%, not so good, 37th in the division. Significant strikes landed per minute, so his volume output, 18th at 4.21 per minute. So above average. If you take half of 42 is 21, 18 is a little above that. So that's kind of how I do that. Significant strikes landed against per minute. He does get outstruck there. And then you see his actual volume. Sorry, his I should have said his volume was the significant strikes thrown. His successful volume is his landed. So he's thrown decently. He's right about average there. And then significant striking landed per minute differential. That is a good stat right there. So he gets outstruck on the average almost by a strike per minute. So that is a little bit below average towards the bottom in the heavyweight division. And then just some DraftKings points numbers here. Now, if we compare the two, obviously green is good and red is bad. We have much more red on the Alan Badeau side. The only stats that he has greater than Rodrigo are significant strikes thrown per minute and his total strikes thrown per minute, which doesn't say much. It just says what he's attempting. It doesn't say how much he even landed. So, and he is second to last also in significant strikes landed per minute. But you can't, he's had a minute and a half in the UFC. So what are you going to do with that? These numbers are all going to go up, and this number is definitely going to come back to earth. His significant strikes landed per minute differential negative 8.2. So Aspinall pieced him up pretty good there. So obviously I kind of, and then when I'm making my picks that you'll see later in the week, Obviously, Rodrigo, it looks like he's winning the striking game here. But let's not forget Alan Badeau has 7 knockouts. Obviously, he's a boxer. He's a striker. He leans more towards that. So you can't really just count Alan Badeau out. You also have to do your tape and your homework outside of the stats. That's why this is a great companion for your tape study. I'm not saying this is the end all be all to what you need to do to win your bets and your DraftKings contest. You also need a tape. Um, but I'm trying to take the hard work out of the statistic work for you. So let's move on to knockdown data. Nothing really here to speak of except that Rodrigo has been knocked down 2 times in his 2 fights. That is a very high knockdown against rate, 3.83 per 15 minutes. So going against a guy that knocks people out, that's not a number you want to see right there at all. Takedown data, nothing for Alan Badeau. He has no takedown attempts against Aspinall, and Aspinall did land 1 against him. Let's see, Rodrigo, on the other hand, 2 for 2. 100% accuracy there. No one's tried to take him down. So very small sample size there. Control time data. Alan Badeau had no control time at all, which is interesting. Usually you can knock off a 0.5% or 2 in a fight, putting a guy against a cage. But he did get controlled 31% of his minute and a half in the cage. On the other hand, Rodrigo does have a positive control time differential. There he has controlled his opponents 30% of his almost 4 minutes in the cage. So like I said, we're not looking at very big sample sizes here. Submission data, Rodrigo 1 for 1 in his submissions, and nothing for Badeau. No reversals for anyone. And we'll get into our advanced significant striking data here. Let's see. So not much, nothing. What I look for, this is just a lot of numbers. Once again, the 2 left columns are volume, much like the top, just what's been thrown and how much you've landed through your career. So I kind of take those with a grain of salt. I'm more focused on the middle column and the 2 columns on the right. The middle column is all accuracy and defense. The next column to the right, head strikes landed per minute, and then strikes landed against per minute, and then the column next to that, strikes thrown per minute and strikes thrown against per minute, and where on the body that takes place. I just kind of see what numbers stick out to me. Nothing's going to stick out to me because all of the volume numbers are so low. So yeah. We'll move on to the next and last category for our matchup breakdown here. And we have some more advanced significant striking percentages. So how often do you go to the head? How much do you throw leg kicks? What is landed against you? And then a kind of a graphical representation of that. So as you can see, leg strikes landed. Rodrigo 39%, good for 5th in the division. But leg strikes 13 of 13. So that's not a lot of volume there. So don't get the ranks twisted. We have very low numbers here. But yeah, so these will be more interesting when we get into fighters that have a little bit more time in the UFC. So hopefully that's our longest breakdown of the fight. I know it wasn't that exciting, but I wanted to make sure to explain all the categories to you guys and make sure we were clear on that. So let's go to the next fight. Malcolm Gordon. Also, quick update on the Dell thing. I got my new PC yesterday. Got it all hooked up. We're flying on this thing right now. Got the 5600, got the 3080. You know what I'm saying? Liquid cool. Gotta flex a little bit. Anyways, Malcolm Gordon going against Francisco Figueiredo, who is Devison's younger brother, I believe. Younger, older, I don't know off the top of my head. Let's go through it. Flyweight fight coming up here. 5'7" to 5'6". Let's see. Malcolm has a 2-inch reach advantage. Southpaw for Figueiredo. And they are, 7 months apart. Malcolm Gordon is younger by 7 months. He has 2 fights in the UFC. Francisco is 1-0. Malcolm is 0-2. Professionally, Malcolm's 12-5. He's got 4 knockouts, 6 submissions on his record. And Francisco professionally is 12-3-1. He's got 3 knockouts, 7 submissions on his record. So both these guys pulling off lots of submissions, 13 between them. Again, not a lot of fight time here, but let's kind of go through it quick. We got a large negative AWI for Malcolm Gordon, who is 0-2. And then we have a positive, first positive one we've seen on the card, Francisco Figueiredo, 6.73. Something's going on with my fighter odds. Hold on, I gotta... Oh, they spelled his name wrong. That should help. There we go. All right. Let's see here. Power index, neither one's knocked anyone down. Chindex, that's how much you've got knocked down. Malcolm Gordon has one of the worst chins in the flyweight division that I've tracked so far. So watch out for that there. No ground activity, or no, ground activity rate at all. Takedown shooting, submission attempts, control time activity, nothing. Meanwhile, Francisco Figueiredo has the second highest takedown shooting rate in the in the flyweight division, 11.32. Got a decent, or a pretty low control time activity rate, actually, 27th in the division, and no subs attempted. Let's check out Vegas. They say Francisco's going to win inside the distance. He's a minus 315 favorite over the plus 246 Malcolm Gordon. Fighter wins inside distance is a plus 115 for Francisco. So let's take a look at these numbers here. That's a good number for a lower salary. I mean, with numbers like that, you would expect to see the salaries over 9,000, but in this case, he is 8,900 going against 7,300 for Malcolm Gordon. Here are my projections for the fight. If you want to take a look at that, just self-explanatory. I'm not really going to talk about them. This is what I think the scores are going to be. The smaller numbers under it is the value. So let's see, if Francisco wins a decision and he scores 96.31, his value for his 8,900 salary is 10.82. So that's not very high. What you're looking for optimal lineups is usually 12 times, 12x. So his finish win projection right there would be nice, 12. We've got some top performances here. One, he just beat Jerome Rivera in his only fight in the UFC, and Jerome Rivera just got subbed by Zalgas last week in the first round. So those fights there. Malcolm Gordon lost to Amir Albazi, and Sue, I can never say his last name, and I don't know, so I'm not going to try and butcher it. So we'll just call him Sue. We'll get into the DraftKings data. Malcolm Gordon, 1.34 DraftKings points per minute, very low. Has been outscored tremendously in his fights by 4.35 DraftKings points per minute. Francisco, just north of 3 DraftKings points per minute, good for 12th in the division, outscoring his opponents by over 1 point per minute, good for 5th in the division, so decent there. DraftKings points per win, another one I like to look at, 76, so very low. I'm sure it was a decision there, very low scoring affair in that one. No wins over 90 for either one. And then opponents wins over 90. Here we go. I forgot I put this one in here too. So we have their fights over 90 and then their opponents wins over 90. Both fights Malcolm Gordon has given up over 100, and in one of them he's given up over 110. Francisco has done no such thing on his side. He has not lost a fight. Malcolm Gordon, offensive scoring. Let's see, he's only scored 1.6 points in his 2 fights, so 78% of those 1.6 have been from grappling, so he has been grappled 30%. Francisco, look at that here. Let's see, 70.7% of his points have come from grappling, so look out for that, Malcolm Gordon. Finish statistics. Now, for you betting guys, we'll get into the real stats here. Finish loss. Malcolm Gordon's been finished both of his losses. No decisions, and we have a decision win for Francisco. If the graph is blank, that means there are no wins. He has no wins to track, so that's why that's blank. These are just all over the place, aren't they? Otherwise, this is just a graphical representation of our fight finishing data, which we just looked at. Some people don't like to look at all the numbers like this. I like to look at the graphs and look at both. Just makes it a little easier. 5-fight history, again, we're going to skip that because neither one of them has 5 fights. We'll go over it later. Strength of schedule. Malcolm Gordon has the much obvious, obviously the much better strength of schedule, much obvious. Is almost a 78% opponent win streak, Decent strength of schedule, over 70 there. Strength of victories, all right. Strength of defeat, very good, at 84. Meanwhile, Francisco Figueiredo's opponents, subpar. Not even 60% win percentage. 62 strength of schedule, 47 strength of victory. So he's beaten some cans. Strength of defeat is pretty good, but not nearly as good as Malcolm Gordon. We've already talked about their wins and losses. Let's see. Gordon's been outstruck in both of his fights. He's been knocked down, he's been taken down, and he has been controlled. So that's pretty much his fights there. Francisco got outstruck but landed 4 takedowns to 0 and had almost 15 or almost 7.5 minutes of control time there for a decent AWI win over Rivera. So not bad numbers, not poor numbers there. Looking at our graphs, we're not going to see much except Gordon getting dominated everywhere and Francisco dominating pretty much everywhere, and even close with striking against Rivera, which, might not be saying much. All right, we'll get into the numbers here. Wow. I mean, just looking at that, who's going to win the fight? You know what I'm saying? I don't like to use that as a metric, but that's a lot of green to a lot of red. I mean, look at this. Significant striking accuracy for Malcolm Gordon. 3 out of 22 for 13.6%, last in the division. All these striking numbers are last in the division pretty much. His defense is a little better than his offense, but they're still in the 20s, very low. Meanwhile, we look over here. Figueiredo, 3rd in the division for accuracy, 1st in the division for significant striking defense at just south of 77%. Not a high volume striker, but he is more of a ground fighter, as we discussed. So he throws less than 2 strikes a minute, or lands less than 2 strikes a minute, but he only gets 2 strikes a minute landed on him. So that differential is pretty good for a ground guy. Pretty good. I mean, look at that. Look at that defense there. He gets 9 strikes thrown against him per minute and only 2 land. So fantastic. That's what you want to see with your ground fighters. Knockdown data, nothing at all to speak of except for Gordon has been knocked down 1 time. So a very high knockdown against per 15 rate there. Takedown data, Gordon has no takedowns and he's been taken down 1 of 1, so no defense. Figueiredo, 66% takedown accuracy. He stuffed all 5 takedowns thrown against him. Pretty good numbers there. You can expect Malcolm Gordon to get taken down multiple times in this fight if Francisco doesn't finish it after the first one. Control time data, same story. Francisco, like we talked about, almost half of his previous fight against Rivera, he was in control for 47% anyways. And if you look over at Malcolm Gordon, complete opposite stats of Figueiredo. He's been controlling less than 7%, and he's been controlled almost 44% of his fights. So again, you can expect to see much of that. Submission and reversal data, nothing here except for, looks like Malcolm Gordon was submitted 1 time, as we talked about. He is 0 for 1 against submissions there. Again, you're not a great fighter, with not great numbers at your back, not great striking numbers in your history, going against a grappler who's gonna take you down. He's gonna submit you, and you've got a submission on your record, a submission loss on your record. I mean, that's where we look to capitalize here. I don't see any way Francisco Figueiredo loses this fight. I mean, look at these numbers here. Francisco is towards the top of the division in a lot of these numbers. I know he doesn't have a ton of volume, but that says a lot. Considering he is a grappler, like we talked about. He's not known for being a striker, but his numbers are pretty good. His defensive numbers are pretty good, mostly because he kept Rivera controlled and on the ground and not taking punches. That's why his numbers look so good. So we'll see if he can copy that, or if he can duplicate that performance against Malcolm Gordon here. Nothing else really stands out to me. Francisco Figueiredo lands the highest percentage of leg strikes in the division, but then again, 11 for 14, so not too bad, but pretty low. I don't take much of these into consideration because they're so low volume. Let's look at the graphical analysis of the numbers we just looked at. I mean, look at this. His few strikes that Malcolm Gordon's thrown and landed have all been from distance. Nothing on the inside, nothing even from clinch. So yeah, I'm not making picks on this podcast, or in this episode, but I think you can tell where I'm leaning and where you should be leaning to, and that's why I like this price point so much at 8,900. That's a fantastic price point for the value that you're probably going to get. It honestly could be a first round finish, and look at what we're going to get in a first round finish over 12x. That's just what we need. So I'm kind of leaning that way. Next fight, Miles Johns versus Anderson Dos Santos. Let's see, 3 fights a piece for these guys, so we'll have a few more stats to work with here, a little bit more information. So we got Miles Chapo Johns. This is going to be a bantamweight fight, 5'7" against Anderson Dos Santos, who's 5'5", but has a 4-inch reach advantage over Johns. He's also 8.5 years older than Miles Johns. There, Johns 11-1 in professionally, 3 knockouts, 2 submissions, so not too many finishes there. Dos Santos is 21-8 professionally, 5 knockouts, 12 submissions, so you know what he's looking to do. Johns is 2-1 in the UFC, Dos Santos 1-2 in the UFC. So let's take a look at some of the numbers here. Almost identical fight time, like to the second. Almost identical average fight time to the second. Johns 1.77 AWI to a 0.42 AWI, so both north of 0, which is good, but not too nothing to speak of really as far as blowing your socks off. Power index over 1 for Johns, so pretty good. Nothing for Dos Santos. Johns' chin is pretty bad towards the back end of the division, 1.6, and Dos Santos has never been knocked down. As to be expected, Dos Santos is the more I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. He wants to go to the ground more. He's more active on the ground and in the clinch, I guess, with his takedown shooting rate, his sub-attempt rate, and his control time activity rate, which isn't great, but all are better than Miles Johns there. So this is just to say he looks for the takedown more, or Anderson looks for the takedown more. He's looking for subs, and how is he a lay and pray fighter, or does he do anything on the ground that's worth scoring? That's kind of what those 3 numbers respectively are looking at. Anyways, upcoming fight odds, we got Miles Johns is the favorite to win by decision, -178 to +146 there. We'll get into some DraftKings numbers. 8,400 salary for Johns, 78 for Dos Santos. Johns does not score well in his history. 47th, his winning score weight. That's the winning score. The score weights are what your score is compared to the rest of your division. So if you win, what is your winning score compared to the rest of your division when they win? Same for losses, and then this is just for score all around. So does not score well compared to Anderson Dos Santos, who does decently, top 10 when he wins there. Here are the projections. Like I said, pretty low scoring affair. Our highest value between all of them is a first round Dos Santos finish, which I don't know. We'll have to look at the numbers here. 13.24 value. That's over 12x. Round 2 is over 12x as well. All right, top performances. There's only 3 of them a piece, so they're all going to be, you just take a look at that real quick. We'll go through it here in a minute. DraftKings data, not much to say scoring wise. Both these guys are very low scorers, at least per minute. 2.19 DraftKings points per minute, 39th out of 49, and then 2.12, which is a position lower than Johns. Johns, however, does outscore his opponent by half a point, while Dos Santos generally his opponents generally outscore him by half a point. DraftKings points per win, very low for Chapo, 72.63. Meanwhile, Anderson's one victory was a 106.91, so pretty good there. Miles has never won over 90 points, and his opponent has never scored over 90 points. Anderson Dos Santos, like we said, did have that one victory at 106.91. His opponents have never scored over 90, however. DraftKings scoring percentages. Let's see. Anderson Dos Santos does score a bit more, 10% more on the grappling than Miles Johns does. But other than that, they are pretty similar. Johns is more susceptible to grappling points scored against him compared to Dos Santos. So that tells you more about Dos Santos' game on the ground compared to Johns. That's kind of a common theme here. And that's what we're going for with these numbers. We want to get you We want to see where the fight's going to go. We want to I try to visualize while I'm going through these numbers. I try to visualize what's going to happen in the fight. I'm not going through like, all right, minute 1 he's going to take him down, and then minute. I'm just kind of get a general idea. Okay, Dos Santos is going to want to get this to the ground. He's going to, Johns is going to not want to get this. He's going to want to keep it standing. Well, who's better standing? And, so I try to kind of go through it like that before I watch my tape and then see how far off my idea is from what actually happened. We're going to skip the last 5 again because nobody has that many fights in their history. Strength of schedule, Johns dominates that. Well, I shouldn't say dominates. He does. The only thing that's pretty close is the actual strength of schedule. Everything else, Johns wins by about 5 points or more. You can go through and take a look at the fight history if you'd like. Nothing much jumps out at me. He had a good win over Kevin Natividad, and Anderson had a good win over Martin Day with a first-round submission there. So, we'll move on to our graphs. Not good for Johns when it comes to the ground game. Pretty even takedowns. I know this looks like one line. It is 2 numbers. There is a green and a yellow right next to each other there. So they're both .43 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. And by both, I mean Miles Johns and his opponents. But he gets dominated on the ground by about 7%. But he does score better than his opponents lately, and he is trending up mostly in the right direction in every single one of these. Dos Santos, on the other hand, looking good as well. But his opponent's also trending up in a lot of these charts as well. But the one thing that does stand out is his control time and his takedown landed per 15. He is obviously, again, better on the ground than Johns is, according to these numbers. When I say stuff like that, it's not a guarantee. It's just what I'm looking at on these numbers. I don't know. You'd have to watch your tape to see who's actually better, because sometimes that's not the case. But in this case, it is the case. Significant striking accuracy, almost 43%, so not great there. Good for about a little below average in the bantamweight division. However, Dos Santos's accuracy, abysmal, 28%. Doesn't land a lot. Pretty close though. Lands just under what Miles Johns lands per minute. But the differential is the big takeaway here. Anderson Dos Santos gets outstruck by over 2 significant strikes per minute on average, while Johns is outstriking his opponents by almost a strike per minute there. So that's the big takeaway I get from this. And the accuracy, man, Dos Santos has very bad accuracy, throws over 9 per minute, but is only landing 2.5. So that does tend to tire you out a little bit. I like to look for stuff like that. Efficiency is what I'm big on. How many takedowns are you throwing, and how many are you actually getting? Because you're getting tired if you're throwing punches and you're not landing, or if you're throwing takedowns or you're shooting takedowns and you're not getting them. You're getting more and more tired. Knockdown data. Miles Johns does have a knockdown here. That's where that power index number comes from at 1.09. We have nothing to speak of for Dos Santos. Takedown accuracy, very poor for Johns, 1 of 9. But his defense is very good at over 85%, 1 of 7. Or he stopped 6 of 7 takedowns against him. Not great accuracy from Anderson Dos Santos. I don't know what I expected to see, but not 18.75%. However, that is better than Miles Johns. Takedown defense, he has stopped 4 of 6. So it would appear that Dos Santos has the better takedown game here, but I guess we will find out. Control time, completely dominated by Dos Santos. And by dominated, I mean just everything's green. They are actually pretty comparable. The big takeaway, again, is the control time differential, which is negative for Miles Johns and is positive by almost the same amount for Dos Santos. Submission data, absolutely nothing for Johns. Anderson is 1 for 2 in his submissions thrown. He did get a finish there, and no one's tried to throw against him. What do we see in significant striking data? I see a lot of good numbers here for Miles Johns as far as his accuracy and his defense. And then, let's see, leg strikes landed against per minute, so not too many people kicking him. That's his best, or his highest ranked stat there. And pretty poor numbers from Dos Santos striking-wise, but like we said, we kind of expected that. We know what his accuracy is, and we know he wants to submit you, get you to the ground. We'll take a look at the striking percentages here. Not much jumps out except for this. Miles Johns is kind of a headhunter. 85.87 of his strikes. Whoops. Just wanted to move that around so you could see it. Are going to the head. Well, he does not target the body or the legs that much. In fact, he targets the head. 91.5% of his strikes thrown go towards the head. Very good leg striking accuracy or against percentage. We already talked about that. So yeah, and there's the graphical representation of what we were just looking at. Let's go on to the next fight, baby. Who do we got? Khalid Taha against Sergey Morozov. I should have probably looked that up. We're gonna say Morozov. All right, we got a bantamweight, another bantamweight fight here. Khalid Taha, 5'5", 1 inch shorter than Sergey, 69-inch reach, however, 2 inches longer than Sergey, and he is the younger fighter as well at about 2.5 years. 13-3 is Taha professionally, 1 no contest. He's got 9 knockouts, 2 submission wins there. He is 1-2, 1 no contest in the UFC. Sergey Morozov, 16-4 professionally. He's got 8 knockouts, 3 submissions. 0-1 in the UFC. Let's get into it. Khalid Taha, negative 6.8 AWI. Sergey Masvidal, another negative 34.38. We got a lot of guys with not a lot of UFC experience on this card. We got a lot of guys with not a lot of winning UFC experience on this card so far. So keep that in mind. That just means anything could happen. That's what we try to avoid. When I got a guy with 1 fight, I don't know what the heck he's going to do, especially if it ended early. I have no idea. Power index for Taha, 1.61. Very good. And no power. Sergey's not knocked anyone down, and neither fighter has ever been knocked down. Taha seems to be more busy wanting to go towards the ground and in control time. In fact, his control time activity rate, 11th in the division. Very, very good. He is picked to win this fight. Average line is -167 to +137. And Vegas says fight goes to decision. DraftKings wise, they are pretty close in salary, 8,300 to 7,900. Khalid Taha appears that he scores well, and Sergey did not do too well in his last fight. Here are some projections. What's our best one? Khalid Taha. Any kind of finish for Khalid Taha would be very, very nice. 13x in all of those are my projections there. Sergey, he's got a couple high projections or high valued projections, but that he's going to need to get a finish for that. He did get a submission loss on his record, Umar Nurmagomedov, back in January. I believe that was the Wednesday card, the Michael Chiesa Wednesday morning card. Always fun for those. Khalid Taha, let's see, he knocked out Boston Salmon very, very quickly, according to his AWI. Overturned no contest, which turns out, usually I think that's weed when I see that, but then I look at it, and that, Taha's case, it was a diuretic, so definitely not weed, definitely a diuretic, so just keep that in mind, but that's a thing that happened. Let's go on to the DraftKings data. Now, this is look bad for Sergey Morozov. We're just going to say that. 0.37, the lowest in the division and the lowest one I've ever seen. 0.37 DraftKings points per minute. That's a big negative differential there. Khalid Taha also has a big negative differential. Minus 1.54 DraftKings points per minute gets outscored by. His 1 win, he did score very well, 127.06. And who was that? Boston Salmon, that's right. So his 1 win, he's got over 110 points there, so that does bode well statistically. But his opponents in his other wins, both losses, they put up 90, and one of them put up over 100. Here are the scoring percentages. Let's see, Sergey, 90%, 92% of his very few points came from striking, while 81 comes from striking for Taha. About 50-50 grappling to striking, scoring, defensive scoring percentages, and Sergey gets grappled. 72.67. Who did he fight? Oh, Umar Nurmagomedov. So that is to be expected. Fight finishing data. Let's see. We've got 100% finishes because he's got one knockout win there for Taha. Um, Nothing else to speak of. One sub loss was Sergey's loss. So he did get subbed by Umar. 5 fight history. We're going to skip that because we don't even have 5 fights for any of the fighters here. Let's see. Strength of schedule. Pretty much dominated by Sergey Morozov. He's fought the much tougher guys there. We're going to go ahead and scroll through this. Boston Salmon, let's see. Yeah, not even didn't even make it 30 seconds into the fight, and he got knocked out. So that's that huge score for Khalid Taha. Otherwise, he's been beaten in all of his fights. It looks like negative AWIs all over the place. Getting outstruck, takedowns landed against. Wow, he's had 10 takedowns landed against in his last 3 losses. Controls, he gets controlled huge amount, 67%, 53%, 21%. I mean, if Sergey has any kind of ground game, you need to watch out for that. Both these guys, graphical representation looks pretty bad. So we'll just let you look there. All of their opponents are trending up everywhere, while they are typically trending down or are much lower. All right, striking data. Oof, 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 oof. Towards the bottom of the division for both guys in the 40s. In fact, Sergey is second to last or last in all of these volume numbers. And then defense numbers, same thing basically. Sergey actually only got less than 3 strikes landed, significant strikes landed against him in his one fight. But looking pretty bad there. Both guys with a negative significant striking differential, and it's, it's bad all the way around. We'll just go past that. Khalid Taha, 2 knockdowns, so he is a pretty powerful guy for a bantamweight. Nothing for Sergey here. Takedown numbers, 0 for 2 for Taha. He does have a decent takedown defense. It's not great, but it is decent. He stuffed 16 out of 26 takedowns. And then Sergey, no takedowns attempted, stuffed 6 of 11. So a little less than decent there. Control time numbers, not good for either one. They don't control very much, and they get controlled. Taha's, oh my god, get out of here. Total control time against, almost 50% of Khalid's 43 minutes in the octagon. He has been controlled, so that's probably about 20 minutes there. Actually, yeah, 20.32 minutes he has been controlled. So big, massive negative control time percentage differentials there from both guys. Submission and reversal data. Not much to speak of. He has stuffed a submission and unsuccessfully gone for a submission as well, while Sergey has been submitted. We do know that. Striking data, again, I don't have much to say. For Sergey, the volume's not there. It looks bad, what little we do have. And then the volume that is there for Taha is pretty low. All these numbers are towards the low end of the division for striking. So he's got power, but that's about it. His accuracy is abysmal for the most part. His volume is nothing crazy anywhere. But if he catches you, he will put you down. That's pretty much what this is. What jumps out here, as to be expected, Khalid Taha, 79% of his strikes landed are to the head. Out there head hunting with all that power. So that's what I would expect. And then we got Sergey Morozov, significant strikes landed against percentage, 56. So actually, that's not too bad. I was looking at the wrong number there. And you can take a look at the graphical rep of the defensive and offensive strikes landed and where they are landed. Sergey's only thrown strikes in the distance, or outside of the distance, at distance, I should say. He's never been inside the distance and landed a strike. But not much volume there to speak of. Let's go on to the next one because we are at just under an hour. I have got to speed this up. Amanda. Wow, if I could type properly. Amanda Lemos against Montserrat Ruiz. Again, 4 fights here, 1 fight here. We don't have a lot of numbers to speak of. This is going to be a strawweight fight. 5'4" for Lemos, and she is 4 inches taller than Montserrat Ruiz at 5 foot. She also has, respectively, the same reach advantage, 4-inch reach advantage. Southpaw versus Southpaw here. And Lemos is, what, 5.5 years older than Ruiz. Let's get into the numbers. 10.59 ass whooping index for Amanda Lemos. That's pretty fucking good. Montserrat Ruiz, even better. She dominated, I believe it was Cheyenne Buys, in her one and only UFC fight. So she's got a 16.69 AWI, good for second in the division. No power index, no chindex. Power index for Lemos, wow, 1.6. Very good. First in the strawweight division. You don't see a lot of power numbers, especially down at these weight classes. Let's see here. Ground activity rate. We're going to lean, or we're going to show Montserrat Ruiz. Likes to shoot for the takedowns, likes to submit, or likes to attempt submissions. But Amanda Lemos is much busier in control. The average line here is, wow, way, 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 way far apart. Amanda Lemos minus 500, Montserrat Ruiz plus 364. Vegas says this fight goes to decision, and Lemos dominates. She is a 9,300 DraftKings salary, while Ruiz is at a 6,900 DraftKings salary. Both fighters score very well offensively and not too great defensively. Here are the projections. Huge value out of Montserrat Ruiz. If she gets a finish, my goodness, round one finish, 16x right there. Ho, ho, ho. And that is a possibility. I mean, Lemos is obviously no slouch, but Ruiz, I don't know, man. I haven't done my film yet on anything before the Buys fight, but she looked really good in that Buys fight. Really, really good. Complete domination there. So there's the projections. Amanda Lemos is best win, Lavinia Souza, first round TKO. She got a first round submission against Miranda Granger. Decision wins against Mizuki there. She does have her worst loss, actually, is her only loss, I should say. Leslie Smith, round 2 TKO loss a couple years ago. DraftKings data, very high scorer, these ladies. 4.71 to 4.87 DraftKings points per minute. Both score over 100 points when they win. On average, both have a positive and very good DraftKings points differential, 1.42 to 2.67. So here's our wins over 90, 100, and 110. Looking great for Lemos. Her one loss, her opponent did score over 110 points, so that's why those are all 100s there. And Ruiz did score over 100 in her fight. So we are looking good. Scoring percentages, Lemos 77 to 22% striking. Defensively, 84 to 15% striking to grappling. Ruiz 41% striking to 58% grappling, so we know where she's trying to go. And striking 48% defensively to 51% defensively. Let's get into the finish numbers. Amanda Lemos has finished 2 over 3 fights, and she's been finished once. So that's a bang or bust on that one. Montserrat Ruiz, her one fight was a decision win. Last 5 fight history, we can skip that. Strength of schedule, not looking good for Montserrat Ruiz, but it's not looking great for Lemos either. Her strength of victory is okay. Strength of defeat, though, she lost to Leslie Smith. That's a bad strength of defeat right there. But that was her UFC debut. It was 2017. I don't put much stock into that. She did take some time off after that one, and has been killing it ever since. Absolutely. All right, we'll get into the graphs here. Montserrat Ruiz, her ground game, very, very good statistically in her last fight. And Lemos is almost above average, or almost above her opponent in every category except control time. But she's at 21% compared to 27%. Very, very close there. It's not like the gap between Ruiz and Buys 66% to 7%. So we're not talking about that at all. Let's see here. Points wise, I mean, 4.71. These are great, great DraftKings points per minute numbers for anyone, but especially for strawweights. Let's see. Striking data. This should be pretty interesting. Lemos, obviously the better striker here. 64% accuracy. She lands 6.21 strikes per minute. Good for 4th in the division. Very, very good. Very accurate. She throws less than 10 and lands that many. Very accurate. Meanwhile, Ruiz, 36% accuracy, lands one significant strike per minute in the Baez fight. One. So you know what she's trying to do. Amanda Lemos' defense, not too great. Um, she's not getting outstruck or anything, but that significant striking defense and the significant strikes landed against per minute, little too high for me. Ruiz, obviously, her numbers are going to look better because she just kind of smashed Baez for 15 minutes. But she does actually have a negative striking differential. That is because she only throws one a minute. So either way, that's negative, and Amanda Lemos almost has almost a 1+1 significant striking differential there. Knockdown data, fantastic for strawweights for Lemos here. 3 knockdowns, no knockdowns against. That's a huge 1.49 knockdown per 15 rate. I mean, that's really, really, really high. Montserrat Ruiz, no stats there. 100% takedown accuracy for Lemos, 100% takedown defense for Lemos. Now that's 4 for 4 and 0 for 1, but still, those are 200s. Montserrat Ruiz 4 for 5 for takedown, so she is 80%, and no one's tried to take her down. Control time, wow. Ruiz controlled her opponent 65%, so almost 10 minutes out of 15. 65.89% of the fight, while Lemos has a negative control time differential of 6.5%. Submission and reversal data, Amanda Lemos 1 for 1 for submissions. Ruiz 0 for 2, but she's going to keep throwing them there. She does have a reverse and 3 reversals against, so keep an eye on that. That could be a couple easy points, easy 5-pointers there. Let's see, advanced striking data. Much, much better for Lemos. Obviously, she is the better striker, but nothing is really jumping out at me there. Let's keep it moving. Let's see. Nothing really jumps out at me here. Ruiz does like to land some leg kicks. 33% of her shots landed have been leg kicks. So what's that, 5? She only landed 15 strikes. So you can't really put much thought into these numbers here. Hopefully we're going to get some fighters with some more numbers coming up here soon. So that's pretty much that fight right there. That could be a really good fight. Both women really go at it. This could be a low-key banger fight right here. So we'll get back to that when I do my projections later on in the week. Daniel Rodriguez is the next fight against newcomer to the UFC, Preston Parsons. When this happens, I have no idea what's going to happen. I haven't done any film on Parsons yet. I know he has no knockouts and 9 submission wins. So that kind of tells you a little bit of what you need to know. Rodriguez has 7 knockouts, 4 submission wins on his record. Our first guy with over 5 fights. Ooh, it's going to rain. Our first guy with over 5 fights on his UFC record. So let's get into it. I'm pretty much going to be ignoring Preston Parsons' whole side here. I mean, you have his salary and you have his winning projections, but everything else is pretty much a 0. So we'll focus on Daniel Rodriguez. 10.27 AWI, very good. It's got a decent power index and a decent chin index as well. Line minus 248 for Rodriguez, plus 200 for Parsons. 8,800 current salary for Rodriguez to 7,400 for Parsons. That's a pretty high salary for somebody that's never fought in the UFC before, especially against Daniel Rodriguez. So I'd be interested to see what's going to happen here. Projections, you can take a look. Pretty self-explanatory. Let's get into the DraftKings numbers. Even 420 for Daniel Rodriguez there. Congratulations. He does have a differential of 1.32 over his opponents. He averages 104.10 points per win in his 4 wins. Very good number. That's something I'll be keeping in mind for sure. 75% of his wins over 90, 50 over 100, and one of them was over 110. Scoring percentages. Rodriguez this is a classic striking versus grappling battle. 96.93% of his DraftKings points comes from striking. And Parsons has 9 submissions on his record. So, classic striker versus grappler. Daniel Rodriguez finishes 50% of his fights. 50% of his wins come by decision. and his one loss was a decision loss. Last 5, we'll just keep it moving. Strength of schedule, that is obviously going to go to Rodriguez. Preston Parsons is fighting cans, dude. 55%, 59 strength of schedule, 51 strength of victory. I mean, come on, bro. You're fighting nobodies, and now you're going to fight Daniel Rodriguez. I'm really surprised. I think there's a lot of value on Daniel Rodriguez here with that salary. I know it's not a cheap salary, but it's not 9,000. So there's your graph for Rodriguez. Ground game, not much there, obviously. But the striking game is where he's at. This 8.05 significant strikes per minute right here is towards the top of the whole UFC. I think the person above him in this weight class is probably just somebody that has, a very quick one fight victory and it's some astronomical number. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, it's some. Oh no, it's Kazmat Shemaev. He actually has a 9 significant strikes landed per minute rate. So he's the one that's above Rodriguez here. But 48% decent accuracy, 56% defense. Okay, but like we said, the strikes landed per significant strikes landed per minute, 8. He eats 5.5, so that's still he's landing 2.5 significant strikes over his opponent per minute. Very, very good there. Knockdown data, he's got a 1.07 knockdown per 15 rate. Very good. He has been knocked down once, however. Takedown data, not really Rodriguez's forte. He is 25% accurate there, but his defense is very good, 78.57%. He stuffed 11 of 14 takedowns, so that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for from strikers. Same with control time. I'm not looking for a ton of control time because I know what Daniel's game is, but the one number that I do like is less than 10% control time against, meaning if he's getting taken down, he's popping back up. If he's up against the cage getting controlled, he's getting out of there, spinning out of there, repositioning, resetting where the fight's going to take place. I really, really like to see that. So even though he has a negative differential, it's not huge. And it's right where I want to see. Submission data. He does have a submission on his record. The one he attempted, he did finish there. Never had one thrown against him. And striking numbers, pretty good. Pretty good. Above average in most of these categories. Strikes landed to the head per minute, 5.71. Very, very good. Body shots, 8th in the division. Leg strikes, 9th in the division. So he's spreading out his strikes evenly, keeping guys guessing. That's why he can keep his number so high, I imagine. Very good striker, Daniel Rodriguez. And that's all there is to see on that one. Obviously, I'm leaning Rodriguez. But like I said, we're not doing picks in this one. Next, our boy, Billy Quarantillo. Everyone's favorite. Going against Gabriel Mowgli Benitez. This fight is going to be at featherweight, I believe. Gabriel Benitez has fought most of his fights at lightweight, but I do believe this one's at featherweight. 5'10" for Quarantillo. He's 2 inches taller than Benitez, but Benitez has a 1-inch reach advantage. Orthodox for Quarantillo versus Southpaw for Benitez. And Benitez is 4 months older than Billy Quarantillo. Now we've got some fight time here, finally. Billy's 15-3 professionally, 6 knockouts, 5 submission victories. He's 3-1 in the UFC. While Gabriel, 22-9 professionally, he's got 8 knockouts, 10 subs. He is 6-4 in the UFC. So we've got guys with a few more numbers here. 9.5 ass whooping index for Quarantillo, while Benitez is negative. He does have a better power index, but his chin dex is worse, whereas Quarantillo's never been knocked down. Billy does like to shoot more. He throws more subs, but Gabriel Benitez is a bit more active when he is controlling. Upcoming fight odds. Let's see, plus 165 for Quarantillo, minus 203 for Benitez. And Vegas says fight goes to decision. Benitez is the more expensive fighter, 8,500 to 7,700. This could be some good value here. Let's get into it. Here are our projections. Pretty good numbers here. If both guys if either guy gets a finish, they're going to score very well. Let's go ahead. Top performances: Jacob Kilburn, Kyle Nelson. Despite Carlisle fight, not as good for Quarantillo, but definitely not as bad as the Gavin Tucker loss. Let's see. Benitez did smash Bandonay, plus 288.62 AWI in that one. Smashed Justin James, round 1 knockout, and he subbed Sam Cecilia for his third most dominant victory back in 2016. DraftKings data. Let's see. We got positive numbers here. 4.66 DraftKings points per minute for Quarantillo. That is more than almost 2.5 points more. Almost doubling Gabriel Benitez's output. Quarantillo, 0.83 DraftKings points per minute differential, while Gabriel Benitez gets outscored by his opponents regularly. Quarantillo in his 3 wins, 108.57 DraftKings points. Very, very good there. While Benitez does not score so well at under 90 points per win. And when Benitez loses, his opponents almost score 100, average almost 100 points per win. So we're definitely looking at that. Average value, usually Quarantillo, much, much higher priced than what he is. He's close to the most expensive fighter on average in the division, but his value is up there. So this is very interesting. Now it's complete opposite. What was he, 77? Yeah, 7,700. Anyways, we'll get into, let's see, DraftKings points, scoring percentages. Let's see, 73% comes from striking, while 92% of Benitez's points come from striking. So obviously, we got a striker versus striker, not striker versus striker. Now, Quarantillo does have a bit more of a ground game, so that's something we'll be interested in. Defensive scoring percentages, 44% of the points scored against Benitez come from the ground, so something to keep in mind. Finish rates. 2 of the 3 wins for Billy have been finishes. 1 knockout win, 1 sub win. He has never been finished. Gabriel has 2 TKO wins, 2 submission wins, but he has been knocked out and finished twice there. Last 5 fight history. We could, I guess, get into it, at least for Benitez, since he has 10 fights. Not looking very good. 36.4% accuracy against almost 60% accuracy for Quarantillo. 5.91 significant strikes per minute. Gabriel does land 5.28, but at that accuracy, his arms have got to be killing him by the 3rd round. Significant striking defense is much better for Benitez, 70 to 42. Let's see, 2 knockdowns to 1 knockdown for Gabriel, and Billy has 1 knockdown. He has, let's see, takedown accuracy, 38.46 over his last 5, while Gabriel is an even 50%, looks like 1 for 2. Takedown defense, however, 88.89% for Benitez, so it's really tough to take this guy down. Billy Quarantillo with a 56%. Control time percentage, 33.1, which is fantastic. But the control time against for Benitez in his last 5 is only, 2.91. So I don't know, this might just be a stand-up fight this whole time. Or for all 15 minutes, I should say. So the numbers for Benitez are definitely improving. Definitely improving. The ass whooping index has gone from negative over his career to, in his last 5, a 6.49. Power index has gone up. Chin index has gone down a little bit. So that's what we do like to see. Here's some trends. These graphs. Now that we have a chance to look at these graphs, here are just some trends as to how he's doing. His last 5 fights compared to his total career. So his striking has gone down, but his takedown numbers have all gone up. So he is trending upwards in the takedown or in the ground game. Strength of schedule. Let's see. It is pretty close with Quarantillo having the better numbers, I think, all around. Strength of defeat, very, very close there. Probably Youssef being the tiebreaker. Let's go to the graphs here. Billy's are looking a little bit better. Benitez is trending down in all of his fights, even though statistically he is going up. So that's kind of interesting to see. Just his performances aren't I guess reflecting the improvements he's made. His scoring performances aren't reflecting in the performances he's put out statistically, if that makes sense. We'll get into the striking numbers. Significant striking accuracy, like we said, second in the division, almost 60% there, while Gabriel Benitez is towards the lower end of his division, 39%. Throws a ton, does not land very much. Our differential here, pretty good for both of them, over 1 for both, but Billy's is significantly better at 1.7 strikes landed per minute. Knockdown data, sorry, I'm kind of trying to fly through this. We're at an hour 15, and I still have 4 fights left. Knockout data, 1 knockdown compared to no knockdowns against, and 3-2 for Gabriel Benitez. So somebody's hitting the ground in his fights quite often. Takedown data, 38% for Quarantillo, 50% for Benitez. Not much to talk about there offensively for either one. Takedown defense, 56% for Quarantillo, 56% for Benitez. So pretty even there. Both of them have a negative takedown differential, but Benitez almost a -3 takedown per 15-minute differential there. Control time, Billy just barely has a positive control time differential, 33% to 32%, while Benitez doesn't control hardly anyone and has been controlled 20% of his total fight time, almost 18 minutes there. So big negative control time differential. Submissions. Quarantillo has thrown 7 submissions. He has landed 1 of them. He finished. And Benitez has also thrown 7 submissions. So not quite, or I guess Billy's his rate is almost double, but both guys throwing submissions here. Both guys getting reversals. Looks good. Some of the striking numbers, the one thing that jumps out at me is Billy is way more accurate all across the board than Benitez, but Benitez has the better defense, and that's usually how it goes. Significant striking percentages, nothing really jumps out at me here except for Benitez does not target the head very much. Only 50% of the strikes that he lands to the head. He throws a lot of body, or he lands a lot of body strikes and a lot of leg strikes. So watch out for that. Billy Quarantillo towards the bottom of the division in body strikes landed against. So just something to think about there. And there's our graphs. Graphically, we can take a look at that. See what you want to see. Most of the strikes landed against Gabriel Benitez, for instance, 88% have been from distance. So that's kind of the kind of stuff we're looking for there. Next fight, the aforementioned Rodolfo Vieira. Whoops, that's too many vowels. And that's spelled incorrectly. Oh, just go up there, you. I'll scroll all the way. All right, Rodolfo Vieira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Not much to see here as far as experience from Stoltzfus, so we're going to go through this pretty quick. Rodolfo Vieira is the guy, he is basically a 6,500 times black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he got subbed by Anthony Fluffy Hernandez in his last fight in the second round. Basically, here's the breakdown of this fight. If Rodolfo does not submit Dustin Stoltzfus in the first round, Stoltzfus is going to win the fight, one way or the other. That's all there is to it. Rodolfo has no gas tank at all, and he has no other game except for submissions. Ground game, jiu-jitsu. So let's go. 17.42. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this fight. Like I said, if Rodolfo doesn't finish this in the first round, it's pretty much over. Both guys are 6 foot. Stoltzfus has a 2-inch reach advantage. Is about 2 years younger. 7-1 for Vieira in his career. 1 knockout, 6 submissions. 2-1 in the UFC. Dustin is 13-2 in his career. 2 knockouts, 5 submissions, and he's 0-1 in the UFC. We're not going to focus too much on this here. 8,700 for Vieira. That's probably about right. Maybe a little high. 7,500 for Stoltzfus. You could definitely find some value on Stoltzfus. I'm going to have a good chunk of him, I think. Maybe. I might just be talking now, but man, if this fight goes past the first round, it's going to be all Stoltzfus. Let's go down to the DraftKings data. 4.36 points for Vieira. Has a differential of 2.24 over his opponent, whereas Stoltzfus has a negative 1.8 differential at 2.27 DraftKings points per minute. Average salary, Vieira is one of the highest, more expensive guys in the division. Not a great value either to go with it. but it's mostly because of that fluffy loss. He does have both of his wins over 100 DraftKings points, so that is good there. Look at this. Offensive scoring percentages. 78% have come from grappling, while only 22% come from striking. Let's see here. Across the board, Stoltzfus has given up 41, almost 42% of his points have come from grappling. So that is a good chunk there. I'm going to weatherman it up and look at the screen instead. Finish winning percentage, 100% win. Finish percent. God, I can't even talk anymore. 100% finish rate for Vieira in his wins. 2 submissions there, and he did get submission. He got subbed. Wow, I really can't speak today. Maybe I should take a drink here. All right. Last 5, we're going to skip that. Strength of schedule. Much, much better for Vieira. Stoltzfus, not a great strength of schedule. His strength of defeat is pretty good, but that's mostly because of that Kyle Daukaus knockout. Or no, it wasn't a knockout. They went to do decision there, but he whooped his ass. Whooped that ass. Negative 32 striking differential. 2 takedowns landed against. Dominated the fight. Controlled him for 57%. Let's not focus on that too much. This Anthony Fluffy Hernandez fight, though, oof. I mean, Vieira looked good for about 2 minutes. 2 minutes, I think. And then the rest, 4.88 minutes, was trash. Complete trash. And then he got submitted. Amazing. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on these graphs. It's just what you think. Rodolfo dominates on the ground and in control time, and we don't know enough about Stoltzfus to say anything at all. 42% striking accuracy, not very good. Very low significant strikes landed per minute. So not good striking numbers from either of these guys here. So we're going to kind of skip over that. They both have negative striking differentials. Dustin's is way worse. Way worser. Knockdown data, nothing at all. 0-0-0. Takedown data, let's see. 47% for Vieira. He dominates the ground game here, as is to be expected. He's got a +7 takedown for 15 differential. Good for 3rd in the division. No one's even tried to take him down. Control time, I mean, come on. 60% of the fight he controls. 60% of the fights Dustin got controlled in his fight against Daukaus. Submissions, 2 for 2, and he's been submitted. No submission attempts from Stoltzfus. Oh, what jumps out at me here? Nothing as far as striking. These guys, we're not here for striking, at least from Vieira. And Stoltzfus has 5 submissions and 2 knockouts, so I don't think we're here for striking for him either. That said, Vieira is a headhunter. He doesn't vary that up too much. Throw over the head and then go for a takedown. Yeah, there we go. That's what we're looking at there. A lot of grappling from one side, or from both sides probably. Do. Jeremy. Who doesn't love Jeremy Stephens? Just kidding. I'm not really a fan. I don't have anything against the guy except that weird shove he did on Drakkar Klose for absolutely no reason. That was odd at the weigh-ins a couple months ago. Anyways, let's keep this moving. Jeremy Stephens. This is going to be a lightweight fight, I'm pretty sure. Jeremy's moving up. I'm not going to check right now, but I'm pretty sure it's lightweight. Jeremy's 5'9". Gamrot 5'10". Let's see, the reach is 1 inch advantage for Jeremy. Orthodox versus Southpaw again. And Jeremy is going to be 4.5 years older than Gamrot here. Let's see. Our first, nope, he's only got 2 UFC fights as well. Stephens is 28-18 professionally, but he does have a losing record in the UFC, 15-7. While Gamrot is 18-1 professionally, 1-1 in the UFC. Let's see. Gamrot has 6 knockouts, 4 subs professionally. So, just over 11 minutes for Jeremy Stephens. Average fight time just under 11 minutes for Gamrot. Stephens with a 1.35 ass whooping index, while Gamrot 19.41. Power index is there at 1.1, but Stephens obviously has a better number, 1.46, as to be expected. 0.42 Chindex compared to Gamrot, 2.13 Chindex. Not good at all. He must have been knocked down in one of his fights here, but he doesn't have a lot of history to kind of even that number out. The line, Vegas says Gamrot wins this fight inside the distance, minus 231 to plus 184. Stephens is 7,600 on DraftKings. Gamrot 8,600 there. Here are the projections. Much better for Gamrot. Much better value. Much better chance to make the optimal lineup, I believe, over Jeremy Stephens. So there's that. We'll kind of scroll through. You can take a look at his last top performances there. Bop, bop, bop. DraftKings data. Let's see. Gamrot, much more efficient. Much better score so far. I know he's only got 2 fights, but he does have 22 minutes, 22 minutes in the octagon compared to almost 400. But still, 4.35 scored per minute. He has an almost 3 DraftKings points, plus 3 DraftKings points per minute differential, while Jeremy Stephens pretty much breaks even there. Gamrot, his one win was over 100. Let's see, Jeremy Stephens, he does have a couple wins, 26% of his wins over 110. Now, this is where you have to know that Jeremy Stephens is like 0-5 in his last 6. Okay, so he's 0-5 in his last 5. 0-4 with 1 no contest, I guess, is what you'd say. So he's 1-4 in his last 5 with 1 no contest. So that said, these numbers right here are old, right? They're old. Scoring percentages, 71 comes from, for Stephens, comes from striking, while 54% of Gamrot's points come from striking. No one has scored a grappling point. I mean, how many points have been scored on him grappling-wise? 0.03, so a sliver, a literal sliver, where you can grapple against Jeremy Stephens as well. Finish rate, 100% win rate, finish win rate for Gamrot, and his loss was a decision loss. The finish win for Jeremy Stephens, 53%. A lot of finishes here, but a lot of decisions as well. And not many of the wins have been coming recently. So, last 5, look at this. So, Jeremy, in his career, has a 1.35 ass whooping index, but in his last 5, he is a negative 11.03 ass whooping index. And that's exactly why I do these comparative, last 5 compared to the career. Because the career, you're like, okay, Jeremy Stephens, he's lost his last 5, but he's, got a positive ass whooping index. His power index is there at a 1.46, and his Chindex is decent, 0.42. He's been knocked down before, but it's not terrible. Now you look at his last 5, minus 11.03 ass whooping index. That 1.46 power index, which was 9th in the division, is at a 0 now, 0. And the chin index, which was decent, 0.42, is now even worse, doubly worse, at a 0.8. So that's exactly why I do this stuff. You can kind of take a look at that. He has made some improvement, or he's trending up in some cases, but he is also trending down in a few. Mostly his scoring, the punches he absorbs, his striking defense, that kind of thing. Strength of schedule, it's still going to be Jeremy Stephens. He's been fighting tougher guys for way longer than Gamrot has. That's just an experience thing. Jeremy's been around for freaking 15 years at this point. Something like that. But he has been getting absolutely worked in his fights. Minus 17 AWI. Barely. I mean, that Yair fight, he got outstruck completely. The only thing he had was the control time and the takedowns landed. That's why that number is so close. Negative 16, negative 11, negative 39. Like, I'm not interested in that. Gamrot, his one loss in the UFC was to Kudalatse, who is no fucking joke. That guy, my God. We're going to be hearing a lot more about this guy, so you better figure out how to pronounce his name. Gamrot, statistically, won that fight. 9.81 AWI in a loss. That's fantastic. He, 15 strikes differential, plus 15. He did get knocked down, but he landed 5 takedowns to none, and the control time was 23%. So Kutaladze just was smacking him with these leg. This guy's got the hardest leg kicks I've ever seen. I mean, maybe Barboza, maybe. I don't know. This guy throws tree trunks when he kicks. It is insane. Anyways, let's not focus on a guy that's not even fighting this week. Look at our graphs. Stevens, no bueno anywhere. Gamro is better everywhere than his opponents. That's just what the graphs say. And Stevens is generally trending down. That's the other thing. His striking is a little bit up, but he is trending down everywhere else. I don't like to see that at all. Striking data. Now, I know we don't have a lot of information from Gamro, at least compared to Jeremy Stevens. But look at this. Jeremy Stevens towards the bottom of the division. 41% accurate. 3.17 significant strikes landed per minute. You know, he's towards the bottom in these categories, guys. 58% defense, that's not bad, but it's a little above average. The only thing that is a saving grace is he does have a technically positive significant striking differential at 0.11, 0.12, while Gamro's significant striking differential is a full 2 strikes better per minute than his opponent. Knockdown data, I mean, we'll have to look at the per 15 on this one. 0.6951 for Jeremy, 0.70 for Gamro. Virtually identical there. Takedown data, 38.46% for Stevens, 33% for Gamro, but Gamro's defense is at 100. Only two takedowns attempted against him, though. Jeremy Stevens, not a terrible takedown defense, 65.7. Not great, but not terrible. But he does have that negative takedown per 15 differential, while Gamro's is a whopping 5 takedown attempts per, or takedown landed per 15, I should say. Control time. Jeremy gets out-controlled here. Not by much, but there is a negative 3% differential there, while Gamro controls 20% of his total fight time and has gotten controlled maybe for a second. Maybe. Actually 0.02, so yeah, about 1 second. Submission information. Jeremy Stevens has thrown 10 and never submitted. He has been submitted at least once, possibly twice. And what jumps out at me here in the striking data is that Gamro looks better everywhere. I mean, Jeremy is consistent, but these numbers are very, very low. Very, very low for percentages and defense. What about down here, the advanced significant striking percentages? Let's see. Oh, my big ass head is in the way. There we go. Nothing really jumping out to me here. Jeremy Stevens does like to land and throw leg kicks. 13% of his strikes thrown are leg kicks, so that's pretty high. 13th in the division. And look at this. Leg strikes landed against from Gamro, 60th in the division, 58th in his division. So might be eating some leg kicks from Jeremy Stevens. We'll see how that plays out. All right. All right, guys. 2 fights left. We are at an hour and a half. Let's get this done in about 15 minutes. We have the return of Miesha Tate going against Marion Renault. Yeah, Miesha Tate has not fought in 5 years, and Marion Renault is 44 years old. So I really don't know what to think about this fight. I don't have any qualms with it being the co-main event or anything. I know a lot of people are questioning that. I think these ladies are very well established in their divisions. And Miesha Tate, everyone better know who Miesha Tate is. Anyways, women's bantamweight fight, 5'6". Both of them are 5'6". Both of them, let's see, Marion does have a 2-inch reach advantage, I should say, 68 to 66. And like we said, she is about 9 years older than Miesha Tate, who is not even 35 yet. Professionally, Miesha is 18-7. She has 3 knockouts, 7 submissions. And professionally, Marion Renault is 9-6-1. She has 5 knockouts, 3 submissions. She's 5-6-1 in the UFC. Miesha Tate was 5-4 in the UFC. We're going to kind of breeze through this because I don't think many people are going to be betting on this, first of all, and hopefully not many people are going to be putting this in their DraftKings lineup. Negative AWI's career for both. Power index is a little bit there. Chin index, both of them have been knocked down. Vegas says that this fight goes to decision and Miesha Tate wins. Minus 138 for her, plus 112 for Marion Renault. So we're close to pick'em category here. 8,200, 8,000 salary wise. There's my projections there. Like I said, I'm expecting this one to go to decision, so I'm not really going to be putting any I'm not gonna have too much exposure on either of these ladies in my DraftKings lineups. Both have a negative DraftKings points per minute differential, 0.67 and negative 0.77. DraftKings points per win, 73.15, very low. 82.59, very low. Never scored over 90 in a win, Miesha Tate, and only twice has Marion Renault scored over 90 points. All right. Miesha Tate, grappling numbers, 42.7% of her points came from grappling, while Renault gets 78% of her points scored from striking. You can grapple with Renault. She gives up 40% of her points to grappling. Finish rate, now here we go. Marion Renault does have an 80% finish rate. She has 2 knockout TKO wins and 2 submission wins. So 4 of the 5 of her fights she has finished. She's never been finished. Now Miesha, she's finished 1 of her 5 fights. That was the submission win over Holly Holm. And she has been finished, however, in 3 of her 4 fights. 2 submission losses, 1 knockout loss. So maybe I take it back. Maybe we are looking for a Marion Renault finish here. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. Anytime you have a high finish fighter going against a fighter that gets finished, keep an eye on that. So there's your graphs for that fight, if that's how you like to look at it. We'll go into the fight history, and I believe this is the first fight on the entire card where both fighters have more than 5 fights in the UFC. So we can actually look at this. All right, Miesha Tate, 2 significant strikes landed per minute, and she gets outstruck by over 1 strike per minute there. 1.21 to be exact. Marion Renault also gets outstruck, negative 1.85 in her last 5 fights. Her takedown differential is negative. Her control time differential is negative. Her reversal differential is negative. Her DraftKings points differential is negative. So not a good look there for Marion Renault. Her ass whooping index is very low, a negative 0.823. Much lower than her career negative 0.93. She has improved her significant striking accuracy over her last 5, and her takedowns landed over 15 in her last 5. Everything else, though, very far down. Miesha Tate has improved her takedown defense, and actually you can't even talk about that. She's been off for 5 years. Who knows what she's improved at this point? That's just stats from old fights. Strength of schedule, pretty even. Let's see here. You can take a look at those last 5 if you like. They do have some common opponents. Raquel Pennington, they both lost to decision there. They both pretty much identical. Who else? I thought oh yeah, Sarah McMahon. They both beat Sarah McMahon. Renault subbed her. Wow, Renault subbed her and had with negative AWI. She must have been getting worked on and caught a sub. Yep, that's exactly what happened. All right, the ground game for Miesha Tate, on average, has been better than her opponents. Everything else is lower, and Renault gets outscored everywhere. All right, striking data. Let's see, there's 21 women bantamweight in this division, so these are a little bit below average, or right at average. So yeah, Miesha, not as good of a striker as Renault, at least volume-wise. Negative half a strike differential there, where it's pretty even for Renault. I know it's negative, but just barely. Miesha Tate does have a knockdown, and she has been knocked down, while Renault does not have any knockdowns, but has been knocked down as well. Takedown data. 10 takedowns landed out of 44 for Miesha Tate for 22% accuracy. Not good. Marion Renault, 63% accuracy. Their defense is about the same, right around 50 to 55%. Control time, very even for Miesha Tate, 29 to 29, while Renault has been controlled much more than she has controlled. Let's see, submission success rate, 22% for Renault, 9% for Miesha Tate. Renault never been submitted, and Misha Tate has been submitted one time. Striking numbers that stand out to me, looks like Renault is better accuracy and defensively pretty much everywhere. She throws the higher volume as well. Other than that, not much to see. Nothing else really stands out. You can take a look at those percentages if you like. But yeah, I'm probably leaning Renault in this one. By finish, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. When was her last finish? She subbed Sarah McMahon back in 2018, and then she's dropped 4 in a row. So we're going to have to tape that one a little bit better than we have so far before we go making picks. All right, guys. We are here. Change that to a good old 5. Main event, Islam Makhachev going against Thiago Moises. We've done it. We're here. Let's get into it. Lightweight fight. 5'10" for Makhachev, 5'9" for Moises. Identical reach. Another Southpaw versus Orthodox matchup. And Makhachev is 3.5 years older than Moises. Let's get into it. Let's see. Makhachev's fights generally don't last as long as Moises. He does have a 17.79 ass whooping index, while Moises is 3.85. Power index is fantastic, 1.16 to 0. Chin index, not good, 1.49, towards the bottom of the division, but that's just average. I think he just got dropped one time, I believe. I'm not sure. We'll have to look. Chindex for Thiago Moises, 0.36. Makhachev likes to shoot way more, likes to throw way more subs, and is a little less busy on the ground than Thiago Moises is. Upcoming fight odds. Let's see. Vegas says Islam dominates this fight. Negative. Minus 634 to plus 438. Fight goes to decision. So yeah, pretty dominant. Vegas is seeing a dominant victory from Makhachev here. 9,400 compared to 6,800 salary for DraftKings. Here are my projections, and we get 5 rounds of projections here, obviously, because I believe this is a 5-round fight. Not great value out of Makhachev here. I'm obviously leaning Makhachev, but he's so expensive that the value just isn't quite there. If you take a look down here at the DraftKings data, his average salary, he's the most expensive fighter out of 61 fighters in the lightweight division. Average is 9,400 almost. His average value 9.27. It's so hard to get value when you're that expensive. So just keep an eye on that before you throw a bunch of exposure towards Islam. That said, I fully expect him to dominate this fight. 3.91 raw DraftKings points per minute. He outscored his opponents by 2.74 points. That is tremendous. Moises does not score well, barely outscores his opponents. Look at this here. 97.11 DraftKings points per win. Very good number. Compared to 70.57 for Thiago Moises in his 4 wins. 51st in the division. Not fantastic. Moises has only gone over 100 DraftKings points in one of his fights. He's only gone over 90 DraftKings points in one of his fights. Meanwhile, Makhachev has gone over 100 in 5 of his 8 wins, and he's gone over 110 one time. So, a little bit better of a scoring opportunity there. Islam, 56% of his DK scoring points come from grappling, while Thiago Moises has given up 20% of his points from grappling. Moises also likes to grapple. That 43% is a pretty high number, but not compared to Islam. Fight finishing data. Islam Makhachev has finished 4 of his 8 wins, 1 TKO, knockout TKO win, and 3 submission wins. He has been knocked out once, so that gives him a 100% finish loss rate. Thiago Moises, 25% of his wins have come by finish. He's gotten 1 submission, and he has never been finished. Graphical analysis there for his finishes. And fight history, last 5 fights. All right, 50% accuracy at 1.73 significant strikes landed per minute. So not a ton of strikes landed, but he doesn't do his work like that. He works On his takedowns, he works off the ground, gaining positions. Defense, 72.54% striking defense, so very good. Meanwhile, Thiago Moises, 37% accuracy at 3 significant strikes landed per minute. So that is better, but that is the only place where he is better in his last 5 fights. Islam Makhachev absolutely dominates these numbers. Look at the 53% takedown accuracy, 92.31% takedown defense in his last 5. So tremendous. In his last 5 fights, he's almost controlled for 50% of the time. He's only been controlled 5% of the time. I mean, look at these numbers. Almost a full strike differential per minute. 2.22 takedowns landed per 15 differential. 40% control time percentage differential. You know, he's outscoring his opponents by a full 2.69 points per minute. His ass whooping index is a 20 in his last 5 fights. 20. That's real fucking good. Power index 2.44. Powerful. Chindex 0. So look, I mean, this isn't even a contest in my opinion, according to the stats anyway. That said, he has improved his significant striking defense over his last 5, and he has improved his the amount of points that he gives up. Everywhere else, he is pretty close. His takedown accuracy has dropped a bit, 15% compared to his career. But that said, he's still taking people down, and his takedown defense might have dropped 1%, but it's still over 93%. So strength of schedule, pretty identical actually. I'm going to give it to Makhachev though, just barely. His toughest fight to date was the Arman Sarukian fight, and he still has a 6.79 ass whooping index on that one. So pretty good, pretty good. All these graphs, as you would expect, are all leaning towards Makhachev. Most of them are trending up. The ones that are trending down is because you can't keep up that pace. You can't keep up a 12-point pace, DraftKings points per minute, unless you're getting very quick first-round knockouts all the time. So that's the only reason he's trending down here. The more important numbers are that his opponents are trending down, or they are non-existent. Their average is so low that it doesn't even matter. Over on Thiago Moises, his striking numbers are not great. His scoring numbers are not great, and he is trending down in every single category. So, not fantastic. Striking data, all right, 56% for Islam Makhachev over his career, just a hair under 2 significant strikes landed per minute. Not great. Towards the end of the division, however, as we'll see in a minute, his takedown and ground game numbers are towards the top, so that kind of balances out there. Significant striking defense, number 4 at 70%, very good. He does not allow a full strike landed on him per minute. 3rd in the division, 0.77 strikes landed against him per minute. That's an outrageously low number. So are the strikes thrown against per minute, outrageously low, 2.6 thrown against per minute, crazy. He's got a significant striking differential, 1.22 per minute, good for 18th in the division. Moises is significantly lower in all of these numbers. His defense is decent, not as good as Makhachev, and his differential is also negative by almost half a strike. Knockdown data, 2 knockdowns for Islam Makhachev. He has been knocked down once, like we talked about. 0.35 knockdowns per 15 for him, and no information for Moises except that he has been knocked down once in his career. In his UFC career, I should say. Takedown data, here we go. 69% for Islam Makhachev, good for 2nd in the division. And his takedown defense, 93.33%. He stuffed 14 out of 15 takedowns. These are fantastic takedown numbers. 3.5 landed per 15. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that's going to beat Islam in the takedown category. That said, Moises' numbers are pretty good. I mean, they're all red here, but look at the average. Look at the ranks. They're all above average. Every single one is above average. So he's no slouch. 75% takedown defense. That is no joke. We'll see how easy it will be for Islam to take down Moises. That is pretty much what I'm going to be looking for in the fight. If Islam can't take Moises down, he's not going to outstrike him. So both these guys are pretty much ground guys, and we're going to see how that's going to go. I'm very excited for it. Control time, 52.52% for Makhachev. He's only been controlled 8%. That's a difference of 45% there. Thiago Moises, again, no slouch. 30% of his fights he has controlled. 30% of his fight time he has controlled. And he's only been controlled 7.5%, which is better than Makhachev. So both these guys control. Both guys are used to dominating, and both guys are not used to being controlled there. So this is going to be very interesting. Submission game, 2 for 5 for Moises, successful. 3 for 6 for Makhachev were successful. Neither guy has been submitted. They're both, Makhachev is reversing. They're getting reversed against. It's fun ground game. He throws a submission per 15. Thiago Moises throws just under a submission per 15. I'm excited. Makhachev, as far as striking goes, advanced striking, these numbers are kind of surprising to me, actually. I didn't think they'd be that high, but he does throw low volume, so I would assume the ones that he does throw, he needs to make them count. So top 10 in a lot of accuracy and a lot of defense here. Volume-wise, head strikes towards the low end, but it's the strikes against that he's top 10 in most of these. And like I said, we're not going to get a lot of volume out of either of these guys. Both guys like to fight on the ground. They'd much rather take you down, try to submit you, beat you up on the ground. Advanced significant striking percentages, nothing is really jumping out to me here. Moises does not throw much to the body. Makhachev does not throw many leg kicks. He doesn't throw much in or outside. Let me start over. He doesn't throw much at distance either. Towards the end of the division, he likes to work inside the clinch, and he likes to work on the ground. So that should not be surprising to anyone. Here is the graphical analysis there. All right, guys, we made it. We made it through the 11-fight card. UFC Fight Night 31, Makhachev versus Moises. Good stuff. Good stuff there. I'll just say, probably coming up later in the week, we're going to do a quick projection video, probably about a half an hour projection video. I'll share with you guys all my DraftKings projections, how I think the fights are going to finish, who's going to win. I'll make my picks, and I'll tell you the method and how I think they're going to score. And I'll put all my projections up there, all the round-by-round projections, so you guys can pick your own. If you disagree with, say, Makhachev winning by decision, you think he's going to win in the second round, I have my second round projections up there for you, so you can take a look at that. Other than that, guys, let's enjoy the fight card this week. Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe on this, especially if you stuck with me the whole video. You are awesome if that's the case, because it can start to drag on towards the middle there. I'm trying to work on making it a little bit more exciting and not just reading numbers from a screen for you guys. So that said, once again, I have been Monk Master Flex. This is Monk Maddox, and thanks a lot for watching. Stay tuned for more videos coming up this week before the fight card goes off on Saturday, and let's make some money. See you guys.